Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Southern Outdoorsmen Podcast. It is cold in the deep south right now, so we got a lot to talk about. We just got back from Mississippi. We're going to talk about this cold front. We're going to do some video Q&As. It's going to be great. Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing super good. Just got
doing
back
super what?
super good, super well, whatever. it's dude, just, we're getting back at the swing of things. Mississippi was fun. Super fun.
Man, we had a good time.
We're going to talk more about it on this trip, and who saw deer, who didn't see deer, who saw bucks, who didn't see bucks, all that kind of stuff. But real quick, Andrew, how you doing? I never ask you how you're doing.
Dude, I'm doing great.
That's always the same. You're doing okay.
Yeah, I'm always doing good, man.
Another day, another dollar.
That's right.
But real quick, hey, I want to start us
We got
off.
a couple things we got to talk about.
Oh, well, where are you?
Right at the beginning. Well, you go first.
Okay. To let everybody know, it's been we're kind of not late putting it out, but we've been kind of working the final details. We're doing our second or third annual? Third annual?
Third annual.
Oh, man, our third annual. Dude, time flies. Our third annual Hunters Meetup is happening on Saturday, February 20. Oh, God, I probably should double check this.
22nd.
February 22nd at Weaver Meet. Oh, God. Sorry, I'm so worried about the date. Yeah, Saturday, February 22nd is our third annual Weaver Meet Hunters Hangout meetup event, which is it's our only big live event that we do at any point in the season, other than maybe when we go to a trade show or something like that, have a booth. But it's a really fun time. We're going to have also Buckmasters going to be there. It's going to be a big buck contest. So if you've killed deer, for all of our Alabama listeners and viewers, if you've killed deer in Alabama that you want to enter the competition, you can do that the day of the actual event. Just you can bring the skull cap of your buck, especially if you're going to get it mounted, or if you already did a Euro mount, that's fine too. You can bring the skull cap of that deer from this year and actually enter it to win for the competition. We have some big prizes, some cash prizes. There's some pretty big cash prizes last year. We're also working out some door prizes and everything else like we did last year. So it's a really fun event, all day event. We'll probably we're going to start right around 9:00 in the morning, and we're going to go until pretty much when people leave. Last year, I think we said we're going to end at 4. I think we didn't end till like 6.
Yeah.
So we ran a little bit long last year, but it's a really fun event. Have a lot of past guests from the podcast that will be there. Again, so it's February 22nd, Saturday, last Saturday of February at Weaver Meat Processing's facility up in Hartsville, Alabama. We'll put all that information down below. Also, y'all can message us on social media. We'll make some social media posts about it as well, but it's going to be a super fun event. And there's going to be some very, very big deer at this event. There's some giants that are going to be entering the competition. And even if you haven't killed a giant, bring your deer, get it scored. Again, it's free to get deer scored from Buckmasters, unless you want to enter it in the record book. So I'm going to bring one to get scored, so I'm excited.
Yeah, might get it in the book, huh?
Absolutely. No. For a gun, no. So
for rifle, it's probably.
For a rifle, I think it's 140 or 150 inches minimum.
Ooh, ouch.
For Buckmasters.
Yeah.
It ain't making that.
If you do have a deer that makes that, it's what, like $25?
Yeah, $25.
Okay, so if he makes that and you want to put him in the record book, then it's $25. But you can get him scored for free. And also, we're doing a prize for, or how are we doing the prizes for the competition?
So we're
it's
doing
big 8-point and biggest overall deer.
Yeah, biggest overall deer and biggest 8-point. So again, if you got a big 6-point, bring that deer down too. Just get it scored. And again, it's gonna be a super fun event. Last year, I think it was like 55, 56 deer that got scored.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, to make the top 20, you had to be in the mid 130s.
Yeah,
which was super cool to see.
I'll be honest. Yeah.
And number one that took it away was actually a guy who doesn't live very far from where we're at right now. Killed one in the I think it was 172 and some change, 171 some change.
Low 170s.
Absolute giant Alabama whitetail. So, anyways, come on, hang out with us February 22nd. It's going to be a fantastic event. Again, more information will be posted a little bit closer to time. So, just make sure you're off that day if you work weekends and come hang out with us.
Are they doing other prizes for like the top 10?
We're working on that.
Okay.
Working on that with Titus Conrad and Stanley over there at Weaver Meats. But yeah, we're gonna have a bunch of different door prizes for some of the top participants in the competition, and just like giveaway prizes like we did last year too. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and also Weaver Meats provides all the food.
Yeah,
so
lunch is prepared. There'll be drinks.
They got a bunch of big, huge grills out there.
Non-alcoholic drinks. We don't allow alcohol on the premise, but we have non-alcoholic drinks.
Last year we had a big coffee truck out there.
Yeah, coffee truck was out there.
That was so good.
But the food and drinks outside the coffee provided as well from Weaver Meats. So we
a couple of years ago when we first did it, Stanley made a flip-flop ham where he took entire back leg off a deer and you grill it and you flip, like do one side of it.
Super hot in charcoal.
Super hot on the charcoals, and then you flip it, and while you're cooking the other side, you're slicing off meat off that top side you just cooked. It was phenomenal. It was so good.
Do you like tacos? Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to do that because we'll have too many people there to do that this time. But
Well, the first time it was awesome. Y'all missed out.
we had chili. Also, Miss Weaver's made homemade donuts last year that were.
It was like top 5 things I've ever eaten in my entire life.
And that was only for the people that stuck around till like 4 o'clock. That's when she brought them out, which was, I'll be honest. I'm glad she did it because it gave us options for them, but also for, everybody left early. They didn't get the opportunity, but super fun time. Again, it's family friendly. You can bring the kids. It truly is just a big hangout fest where everybody can kind of meet, not only a bunch of podcast guests, but also hang out with us and just talk deer hunting with everybody. Last year we did a couple different seminars or kind of like almost like a live podcast. I've talked to the guys. We may do that again this year. We may not try to work on some details because I really want more time to be able to talk to people.
Yeah, me too.
Just doing like the actual the small scale. I cannot talk tonight. Small scale seminars. So we're gonna try to work out the details.
Oh, we ought to get like a band or something. Yeah, dude, get a freaking guy up there to play guitar.
You reach out to Adrian Farley. Adrian, if you're watching or listening. Drayton probably can't make it. There ain't no way.
Oh, that would be awesome.
There's no way Drayton Farley'd come.
I'm gonna text Adrian. All right. Let's see. Anything else about that? Oh, the thing I wanted to mention is if you're someone who's been wanting to go connect with some other hunters who hunt like you, maybe other people that listen to this podcast who, might become your hunting buddy. Like if you're looking for a hunting buddy, come to this event. This is no better place to go meet people who you could potentially, again, go start hunting with, start networking with. Past podcast guests, you can go and talk to them. I mean, I know for a fact that several of these past guests, they've kind of taken some listeners under their wing who approach them. So they will do that kind of thing if you go ask them and go talk to them, put yourself out there. So show up to this event, man. It'll be really fun, and it's a really good chance to meet other guys.
Great place to find a mentor, by the way.
Great place to find a mentor or a hunting buddy.
Yeah. 100%.
This is the place to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony Myers was there last year.
Yep.
At least I think so.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, because his granddaughters won I swear, all the prizes.
Oh, yeah, dude. They cleaned up.
I forgot how many grandkids he had. But, man, they were there, and they cleaned up on some door prizes. But anyway, so it's, again, super fun event. Come hang out with us Saturday, February 22nd. Again, more details come on timing of everything.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a fantastic event. So
be watching our social media accounts for the details, and we'll make an actual event page specifically on Facebook, send it out in our newsletter and everything. And to transition over to our newsletter, if you listen to Monday's episode, you heard that we are doing a giveaway right now with First Light. We're giving away 2 furnace hoodies and a core kit. I'm wearing the core jacket right now. It's my favorite jacket ever. The core kit is not only the jacket, but it's also the bibs too. So that's kind of our grand prize. All you have to do to enter to win is go sign up for Woodsman Wire, which is our newsletter. You can go to southernoutdoorsman.com to do that, or hit one of the links down in the show notes. You find it down there as well. If you're already signed up for Woodsman Wire, you're already entered. So you don't have to go and put your email in 5 more times. Because I saw some people do that today, my man. I saw one dude in particular. He did like 6 in a row. I'm like, you only get 1 entry. Quit gunking up my email with your entries, dadgummit. Anyways, now I said that, I bet a bunch of people are going to spam me. But anyways, so yeah, just go enter to win by joining Woodsman Wire. That's going to run till January
26 is what you said.
26th or 23rd. Whenever 2 Thursdays from now is.
Well, let's figure that out real quick.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Well, anyways, you can enter to win until then. So, like I said, there's going to be 3 winners total. 2 guys are getting a furnace hoodie, and 1 guy's getting a whole core kit. So, y'all go sign up for Woodsman Wire, and you'll be entered to win. So,
yeah, for furnace jacket and bibs, I've worn a lot more this season than I did last year.
The core jacket and bibs.
Oh, sorry. Core jacket. We're talking about the furnace in a second. But the core jacket and bibs, I wore a ton this season, a lot more than I had in the past season. And the packability of it's fantastic. The insulation value is awesome as well. And it just, to me, it's a very nice plug-and-play jacket. Even on those high humidity, kind of windy days where it's in the low 40s, mid 40s, it works extremely well. All the way down to, the coldest I've hunted in it so far this year was 29, 28, something like that.
Yeah.
It works extremely well in all those kind of situations.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's do some Q&As now. Let's do some video Q&A submissions. We're doing these video Q&As now. You can do them, again, on the website. While you're over there signing up for Woodsman Wire, why don't you go ahead and send in a video Q&A as well if you got one. This first one is from Will from the state of Alabama. Let's see what old Will's got. Subject is hunting in the rain.
Hey, guys. I enjoy the podcast very much. Thanks for putting out some good content. Today I'm hunting on some public land in North Alabama, and it's raining. It's been raining. It's going to rain for another couple hours. So my question is, in your experience, how well do the deer move in the rain?
That's kind of video Q&A I like to get. Dude's just sitting out in the rain, and he's like...
Dude's in the field, man.
He's in the rain, man.
Yeah. So
that's legit.
I shot my buck after the rain. It wasn't currently...
The buck you killed 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it wasn't raining when I shot him. But, I mean, I've had decent success hunting in the rain. And to me, yes, they'll move in it. The biggest thing is overcoming the mental hurdle by having quality rain gear in order to be able to sit out there in the rain. Mm-hmm. Because I think if you can do that, especially if it's the rut, if you can suck it up, have some good rain gear, or maybe you're on some private land, you got a box blind, shooting house, pop-up blind, something like that you can get in, or like you carry one of the little umbrellas. If you're saddle hunting or in a tree stand, that works fine as well. But having good rain gear to me gives you a lot more confidence. But we've had past podcast guests. I'm trying to think who in particular has brought that up. But I can't think of them right now off the top of my head. But it's one of those things that when I've had the most success, because I'll kill a few deer in and around the rain, especially if there's a break in the rain. So like if you're watching the radar and you can see like there's going to be like a 2-hour swath in between in a rain shower that the rain's going to stop, that is money. And you need to be sitting there while it's raining, waiting for the rain to stop and then catch those deer, kind of get back on their feet and cruising. But if it's like one of those light showers, it kind of sounds like what he's in, kind of light shower to like a medium shower, I think can be really good. The real heavy downpour, I mean, if you want to go hunting waders and a rain jacket, have fun with it. I haven't done that and had success, but maybe you could. But definitely at the light to moderate rains, I think you can have a lot of success in. But again, it just comes down to quality gear, staying comfortable and dry so you can physically stay on stand as long as possible, specifically during the rut.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I've had really good luck on those kind of medium shower days, just especially with buck encounters. Like I've seen a lot of bucks. I've had a lot of gear issues on those days that prevented me from taking good shots on those bucks, like scope fogged up or scope it's just wet and I couldn't see through it. And just me not knowing how to really handle my gears kind of cost me in those situations. But I have had encounters, and like you said, I think when it's like that, when it's like a misty rain or just like kind of a light shower, I think the deer actually like to move in that. Heavy downpour, I don't really love. The only time I like a heavy downpour is like what you said, when it is going to stop, especially if it stops like kind of mid-morning right after daylight. Those are always really good. Or early afternoon. I've had really good luck on early afternoons in situations like that. But I wouldn't be afraid of the rain, like you said. If you want to just go sit and tough it out, I mean, the deer move in the rain. They absolutely do. Yeah, maybe not a super heavy downpour, but they 100% move in the rain.
And I'll say this: so I've had the Omen First Light Omen Storm Shelter jacket and pants, which is their top of the line rain gear for probably 2 seasons now. I've had the rain jacket for 2 years. I've had the pants for 1 season so far. And it works extremely well, not only on, of course, keeping you dry, but like durability. Because one thing I hate, because I've dealt with this in the past, getting like really cheap rain gear from like, whether it's a big box store or like Walmart or something like that. And after a few times using it, it like, there's like a seam that starts leaking real bad, which, you can tape it up, but like you start having leaks, especially if you're wearing a heavy, like a backpack walking in. Yeah. It seems like you get like leaks right around the seams of the shoulders from like just the pressure of the backpack kind of shifting around your back. And like that heavier rain gear, like kind of more durable rain gear, like that Omen system has worked really, really well for me. And like the pants, like I'll wear the pants. I'm not going to go full speed through briars, but I can ease my way through briars and not puncture holes with them, which I really like. Which again, if you have like, there's a bunch of other like very popular, very economical rain gear that like you absolutely could not do that with. So to me, that's like one big advantage. If you think you're going to be hunting in the rain a good bit, like there was times, especially when I was still working a full-time job, like if it was a Saturday during specifically gun season especially like opening. I remember one opening day gun hunt where you and me hunted, and it was not raining. It was a downpour. I'm like, oh, we're still going because I'm like, I can't hunt Sunday. I can only hunt Saturday. It's the only day I get to hunt for the next 13 days. So I'm going to go do it. And I literally was walking around. I had some cheap PVC waders.
Yep.
And some, I don't know what rain jacket that was. It was some cheap. It was someone
probably something cheap.
It was a cheaper.
I think it was your old you had like a MXR like jacket or something like that.
I had it was like a water resistant ish proof jacket.
Yeah.
And probably within 30, 40 minutes, I could feel the water coming like where my backpack was because we were just hunting off the ground. I had my saddle stuff with me, but I didn't really get in the tree. I could just feel the water coming, like soaking through my jacket where my backpack was.
Oh, yeah.
And then the icing on the cake was I could put my arm down, like straight down like this, and I could feel you could see water come running out of the jacket. And I'm like, well, it's not waterproof anymore, so I'm just gonna stay on the ground and keep moving until so I stay warm.
That's always fun.
So
yeah, I've had issues with my scope, specifically talking about gun hunting in the rain, where I didn't have scope covers, like flip up scope covers or like a neoprene scope cover, which is what I'm using right now, and that goes a long way. I mean, when we hunted in the rain yesterday, just having that on my scope is something that covers the scope, protects it. It's not going to fog up. It's not going to get wet. And, like, I don't know if there's a term for that, where your scope just gets wet and you're looking through a bunch of water and it's real blurry. And you can get it off really quickly, whether it is like a scope cover or those flip up covers, whatever it is. I would definitely suggest having something like that. And I've tried the anti-fog cleaners. Mm-hmm. I have not found one that works yet. I've tried 3 different ones.
So I don't use any. I used to use the flip up cap covers, but I hated the flip up cap covers when a buck comes again, because we're hunting typically woods you can't see super far in. Like if you can see 100 yards, that's pretty good. Sometimes you might be able to see like one little spot for like 130 yards, but everything else around you is like 50, 60 yards. If a buck comes cruising through pretty fast, specifically during the rut, I've had issues where like you try to pop one of those covers off or like open one of the covers, specifically the one on the front of the scope.
Yeah.
That's not the like button release. And either it like gets halfway stuck, like it doesn't fully open because like it stays, locked down on one side of it, or like the whole thing slides off the scope. Not good situation either one when you're trying to shoot quickly when the deer's coming through. So I stopped using those a few years ago and like never really worried about. When it's rainy, I always have like an extra beanie or something, or toboggan, some people call them, in my backpack, and I'll hang my gun up and I will literally put one of them like over the objective lens of my scope. Yep. And then I'll put like a glove or something like either over the muzzle, or you can just tape the muzzle.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've started doing with that I guess it's like a neoprene scope cover.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, when I'm hanging my gun up or when I have it leaned up against a tree next to me, if I'm ground hunting, I'll just put it over the objective lens and it's just sitting there. So if I see something, I can just pull it right, like it in one motion, picking up my gun. I just pull it right off. It's no problem. So I would suggest doing that. But anyways, all right, let's move on. Next question is from Nick Vargo from Missouri.
Guys, my name's Nick. I'm in Missouri. I have been blessed to be tagged out on bucks in Missouri and unblessed to not be able to hunt any other states financially right now. I had a question on, I want to kill some does, and nobody really talks about how to scout for does. Do you just do tracks? Do you just find feed sign? What do you look for if you just want to kill a doe and you're not trying to find bucks?
I love this question. We actually get this question fairly often. How do you go out and just find does, hunt for does? I think one reason that it doesn't really get discussed a lot by some of our guests is because the tactics for finding a lot of does and the tactics for finding the bucks are pretty similar. You're going to be looking for habitat diversity. You're going to be looking for, feed sign like you mentioned, and a concentration of tracks. So, wherever you're finding, especially like those really big, heavy trails, is where you're going to have your doe traffic. And some of our guests will talk about how you'll find those things, and that's not really what you want to look for when it comes to hunting a large buck, specifically a mature buck, because he's going to be kind of off by himself. So there is that. But I mean, I would look kind of at the obvious spots and focus, even no matter where you're at, Missouri, Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, New York, Canada. It doesn't matter. Look for habitat diversity. So look for where you have multiple different cover types all meeting one another. And I mean, literally, we've spent this entire fall traveling around the entire Southeast. We've been all the way up through North Carolina. We've been to Georgia, all the way over to Louisiana, and it's the same everywhere. It all has to do with habitat diversity. Anywhere that you have habitat diversity, that's where you're going to find most of your deer. Even in areas where there's not a ton of habitat diversity, like in North Carolina up there in the mountains, it all looks like closed canopy forest, but once you get under that canopy, there's rhododendron, there's maple thickets, there's other things that create habitat diversity other than just wide open hardwoods. If you're in Missouri, it might be some like cedar glades or something like that. Or it could be, if you have cutovers where at, it could be cutovers. It could be overgrown fields, depending on what part of the state you are in Missouri. So that's my thought. What do you think?
I'd say food. Food number one. I mean, super quality food source. I mean, you're going to have does there. You're going to find a ton of tracks there, whether it's, if you're in Missouri, if you happen to be around cropland, of course, that's going to be one. But also either late falling red oaks or just red oaks that haven't been really fed on super heavily up to this point. It would be a hot spot. That around some kind of cover, I mean, food would be everything. And I mean, you're going to find, like, again, I talked about this a handful of weeks ago when we were hunting part of the mountainous side of, or north side of Alabama, is like red oaks up there that had probably dropped, within the last 60 days, 90 days, but they're just now getting fed on because they've been sitting there a little bit longer. And they take a lot longer to rot compared to a white oak. And all the deer, all the deer, everything was concentrated around those red oaks. And it's like, if you could find a spot of red oaks, it doesn't have to be a huge section, but like it has drop, like you're going to find a bunch of droppings, tracks, some trails coming in and out, but like you're not going to find defined trails in those red oaks. It's going to be like, you'll find trails on the edge of it coming through like around whatever kind of cover or through whatever kind of cover. Then when it hits that patch of red oaks, there won't be any trails because they're just dispersing out through all that, and you're just going to find droppings everywhere. I wouldn't necessarily look for like tilled up ground or anything, but just look for abundance of droppings, especially different age droppings, as in like how long they've been sitting there, whether they're fully dried out, whether they're super, super fresh, have a mix of all that. But where you find the concentration of droppings at, and there's red oaks there's acorns on the ground, you're probably gonna have a really good hunt if you're hunting more in the timber, not around agriculture. So that's what I would say. I mean, the habitat diversity would be fantastic, especially if you're like trying to look for like specific areas that they're browsing real heavy. But again, there's so much oak hickory forest in Missouri. Those red oaks would be super hot right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't really think about that. That is a good point. Maybe combine the two things: habitat diversity with good food nearby.
But I would just sit the food.
Yeah.
Personally. If I was shooting a doe, sit in the food, evening hunt, and kind of cheat over towards that habitat diversity, you'd be on the money for sure.
Yep. All right. This one is from Nate from the state of Florida.
What's up, guys? My name's Nate. I'm from Maine, southern Maine, so I'm used to hunting, tracking deer in the snow, just driving, cutting a track, and kind of just following the sign. And that's usually, it takes a skill in itself. But I've killed a nice little 6-point in Tennessee a couple years ago, but I've been hunting here in Florida for the past like 6 years. No luck. I've seen bucks non-legal because we have, antler restrictions, 3 points on one side or a 10-inch main beam. And it's tough. It's tough down here. But lately I've been hunting the bottoms. The past couple years I've hunted the pine flats, the thick palmettos, all that, the thick, overgrown, snappy, whippy, high stem count stuff, and does. The problem here in Florida is there's so much food in the woods. So bucks don't really have much of a core area, it seems. They could be anywhere. So I'm hunting the river bottoms right now, in the thick river bottoms too. It's not like wide open. Do you guys have any episodes or anything like that I can watch for Florida hunters? And what would you recommend doing for late season Florida hunting around Christmas? Oh, also have Derek Norwood Outdoors on the podcast. He's a good Florida guy with a YouTube channel. Check him out.
All right. What's your thought? That sounds like a real like culture shock going from Maine to Florida.
That'd be,
dude,
God awful.
God
bless
would
you.
be.
What's his name again?
Nate.
God bless you, Nate, dude.
That sounds tough, man.
I have the ultimate respect for guys in Florida who can consistently kill just nice deer. Like, in all honesty, because like our buddy Caden Gray, he's down there, and he was talking about it, and some of the guys that he looks up to that hunt specifically some of the public land and how challenging it really is. I mean, it makes it so much more that you have to overcome down there, especially when it comes to that is some of the thickest of thick you're going to hunt. Unless you hunted, you know, I mean, most of it's going to be super thick unless you're hunting like an open clear cut or something like that. And, you know, everything stays green so much longer, so much more abundant cover, longer growing season. So it just makes it super challenging. I was trying to find some episodes for Nate to check out. The problem is a lot of them, we're going to do some more Florida guys this year.
Yep.
For 2025. But we haven't done one that I'm aware of on video yet. Was Austin Pope, was that a video episode?
No.
Okay. So actually, let me find Austin Pope.
Austin Anderson was.
That's true. He's in the Panhandle. Austin Anderson is a solid one. I would say just knowing where Austin's at, unless you hunted same kind of like river bottom habitat, it'd be a little bit different. But again, I think some of his premises would really work. But one I think that would work real well. So yeah, Austin Pope's from 2 years ago. I didn't realize it's been that long.
Man.
Almost 3 years.
Wow.
2.5 years ago. Episode 382. Again, episode 382. It's on audio platform. It's not on YouTube or anything like that. It's on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. Methodically locating bucks with Austin Pope. He is from, I think he lives in South Florida or lives in North Florida and hunts Florida and Southern Georgia. Hunts a bunch of public land, has a lot of success down there, killing some really, really good deer. He would be one. He's got a YouTube channel as well. I cannot remember his YouTube channel, but if you look up Austin Pope, I guarantee you'll find his channel. And he's got a bunch of different things that he's kind of shown on his channel, specifically about, you know, how he hunts some of that stuff. But he did a really good episode with us as well. Again, episode 382. The thing,
I guess Ray Martin wouldn't be overly applicable, right?
I mean, he's super South Florida.
Super South Florida.
That's the thing about where I don't know where Nate's coming from.
Yeah.
Because Florida's so diverse. I mean, it's a big state, but like, it's like you could be river bottom hunting. You can hunt like some of the public land in like South Florida that's like
Jurassic Park,
or like big pasture property, like cattle pasture.
Yeah.
And everything in between, pine thickets. I mean, literally everything in between. So that's like the challenging thing about Florida is there's not any one specific habitat hunting style that really could translate necessarily everywhere. I was trying to find the ones that we did with Doug White, aka Palmetto Kid, and for some reason I can't pull those episodes up. Those are audio as well, but he's a really good guy. Now down there, the thing that I know that a lot of guys in Florida that have had the most success is kind of like some other past guests trying to pattern deer with trail cameras, but also the issue I've seen when talking to some of those guys, because a couple of those guys we're going to have on the podcast this year, is there's no specific A to B travel that they see. It's very, very like, hey, they're here for 2 days and I don't see them again for 4 weeks, and they randomly show back up. And you could use annual data, trail camera data down there to maybe kind of help you out. But the big thing down there where he's hunting at is, first off, are you hunting a piece of public land that they run a lot of dogs on? Because there's a lot of public land in Florida that they can run dogs in certain areas of the state. If that's the case, you can kill deer there. You can definitely capitalize on that. But also, it might be a little bit more challenging than some specific. I know some bow only parcels or pieces of public land that get a little bit less pressure. They're not as well known, but still produce really good quality bucks. Because like our buddy Doug White's killed some, I would call Florida hammers down there on, some public land that you can go and hunt that aren't necessarily quota hunts. And I know the quota system's really good, or the draw system's really good for Florida for some of these limited access pieces of public land where you actually have a really good chance to kill like a Florida record book buck, like a big deer. So, I mean, those are some other things I would kind of look at. But also, there's another thing for Nate. Nate, I would love for you to write in another or submit another video Q&A with a little more specifics on the region of the state that you kind of are in, just north, Panhandle, North Florida, Central Florida, South Florida, and what the habitat is like on that place. Because I don't know if I need to give him, or when you talk about pine thickets and kind of pine country, if he's more of that kind of South Florida, I'm almost call it like Everglade marsh swamps areas, panhandle swamps or whatever that looks like. The biggest thing is kind of going back to the previous listener submitted Q&A is habitat diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Habitat diversity is always going to work for you. The more edges you can have in one specific spot, 3 or more, you're going to have typically, in our experience, you're going to have more deer associated to those sections and also bucks than anything else on the property. It's not necessarily that they're going to live there all the time, but it's a really good area to run cameras and also potentially get shot opportunities at deer and of bucks in those spots. But I mean, Andrew, what is your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with pretty much all that. I would recommend, actually, he's not from Florida, but it is a classic, the classic of all classics, Glenn Solomon's episode. I actually would recommend that for you to listen to. We actually reposted it, episode 608. I believe it's on YouTube as well. So you'll be able to find that on YouTube. But I would go listen to Glenn's episode. He was hunting South Georgia, and I know that he hunted like around like the Okefenokee Swamp and everything back in the day, which is a huge area in Georgia that, is like a jungle. It's a really, really challenging place to hunt. And so I would just go listen to that. I think there's going to be some tidbits in there that you can pick up. I have nothing to offer personally to this question because I have never hunted Florida at all, ever, for anything. I've driven through Florida a whole bunch and looked at places and been like, man, I just don't
Disney
even know.
World, baby.
I don't even know what to do with this. But we are planning on this spring going down and doing a little combo Osceola hunt / podcast recording trip. So we're gonna be interviewing several Florida guys this year from all up and down the state. So I'm pretty excited about that. We do get a lot of requests from it. We got a lot of listeners in Florida, even though we haven't done a lot of episodes from Florida. We just don't know. We don't have the connections down in Florida that we have in other places, so it's been hard for us to find guests, but we're starting to make some inroads. We got some really interesting people lined up. Some guys who kill some unbelievable deer in Florida, honestly. Like
on public land.
Like big deer. Really, really big deer. Even for Alabama, they'd be big deer.
I cut one of the guys. I would shoot one of those bucks in Kansas.
Yeah. What was it? 160? 160s?
Yeah.
In like central Florida.
Yeah. On public land. So,
yeah.
Anyway. So
could you imagine that? I wonder how much that deer weighed. We'll ask him.
Yeah, probably not much.
Probably not much. That probably made that 160-inch rack look
these 220
ungodly.
Yeah. But Nate, yeah, definitely I'd love for you to write another Q&A, a little more specifics on just the habitat type, and then also check out Glenn Solomon's episode again, 608 on YouTube. You can watch it and just get a better idea of kind of how to hunt some of that thicker cover from an old school guy who had a lot of success. Again, adjacent state from you. But I think some of that could apply, especially if you're north central part of the state. Yeah,
definitely. All right, let's talk about the gar hole. Let's talk about Mississippi, a recent hunt.
I got my beanie on, old gar hole.
The old gar hole, yes, sir. So we just went out to the Mississippi Delta to our buddy Kyler Moppert's camp. You've heard Kyler on the podcast a couple times, including this past Monday. He's got a camp over there, and one of our goals that we've stated over the last maybe year and a half, 2 years, is to hunt more states in the Southeast. And this year we were able to scratch off 2 more. We got North Carolina and Mississippi that we were able to hunt. We did North Carolina in September and just got back from Mississippi trying to time a rut hunt there. But for this particular hunt, we were in the Mississippi Delta, which is a large area, western Mississippi. It's where the Mississippi River is over there. And it's basically the floodplain of the whole Mississippi River. And I don't know how much public ground there is. A bunch.
Kyler says like 150,000 acres.
Yeah. So 150,000 plus acres of public around there, just a bunch of different WMAs and refuges, and I think even a national forest or 2. Mm-hmm. So we were able to go there, and when we went into it, I was like, I would like to hunt maybe 2 of these properties because we had a couple days, and I didn't have any expectations. I wanted to go and have fun. It's been a long season. I've been getting my butt kicked. I'm like, let's just go and have a lot of fun. I want to learn. I want these guys to like teach me what they do out here. So the first 2 days we hunted one place in particular, and we were hunting with Jeff Kane. Mm-hmm. Had a really good time with Jeff.
You hunted with Kyler.
Well, I hunted with Kyler the first afternoon, but like you, me, Kyler, and Jeff were all hunting like the same area. So first impressions, Mississippi Delta.
Some of the biggest briar thickets I've ever seen that weren't in a pine thicket. I mean, straight up. I mean, briars that were like, and they're not like, they weren't saw briars, like the real big, giant, I mean, the things that just tear your clothes off. But it was like green. I've never seen greenbrier patches that tall, like actual greenbriers. Small thorns, but I mean the sucker's head high, and it's just like through all this timber, which is like kind of bigger timber. That was eye opening because Jeff, when we got to camp, we were unloading all of our stuff. He gets back, and before we got back, Kyler's like, "Oh man, Jeff's about to be here." He's like, he just, he had an opportunity and ended up missing like 140-inch deer this morning. I'm like, what? So he gets back to camp, and of course he's not feeling it because of what happened. And he's kind of tells a story, and we were talking about kind of the game plan for the afternoon, and ended up, I decided, or Kyle was like, "Hey, you need to go with Jeff, and then I'll take, or he'd take you, Kyler would take you in there." And we kind of divided and conquered, and me and Jeff, first off, dude, Jeff can slip through some woods. Dude, he is like, I think he said he's only been hunting since like 2012 or something like that.
Yep.
He got into it like when he was like 30 years old, but dude can flat out slip through some woods. Quiet.
Really?
Oh yeah. Dude is like
a dang bobcat.
I'm serious. Like, dude, I thought I had some good slipping skills. I was like, me walking behind him, I'm like, dude, I feel like a child.
You're like the 12-year-old.
Yeah, no, I feel like
Dad turns around, he's like, "Pick your feet up."
Yeah, I feel like the 8-year-old hunting with Dad. But anyways, we ended up slipping in, and we actually went to where he'd seen his buck. And what happened with the buck was he ended up working his way back to kind of like the property line of some public and private, and ended up setting up on the ground. He loves ground hunting even with a bow, and wasn't there for 10 minutes, and actually had a doe slip out in front of him like 25 yards. And this 140-inch, I think he's a 10-point, walked out right behind her, and she was feeding on some. It seemed like she was feeding right there, and what it was, there were some acorns, like very. I don't know if they were. I don't know if they're pin oaks. I can't. They get species over there I'm not familiar with.
Overcups, pin oaks.
not overcups. Real small acorn, not water oaks. But she was feeding on the acorns, and he popped out and was kind of like just milling around, kind of staying right next to her, and ended up, he tried to get a shot. Deer stopped behind some stuff, and when we got there, it was kind of open, like some hardwoods, a little hardwood strip right between the thicket. And he's like, you see that big vine? He's like, that was covering him up along with that little tree. That's where he stopped at.
Wow.
And anyways, just couldn't get a good shot at him once he kind of got past it. But I was going to set up in that general area, and he was locked down with that doe. And he's like, I think I didn't bump him very far. They just kind of trotted out, kind of across this little thicket. And he's like, I'm just going to kind of ease up a couple 100 yards and set up over there. We did that sit, and I ended up seeing 4 deer, all does that evening. And one of the does who came through, all of them were out of range. They came working up one of these slough heads. We're hunting where there's a bunch of sloughs in the timber, and she came up working the slough edge. And dude, I was looking at her through my binos. I'm talking, dude, from like 130, 100, maybe 135 yards away. Her tarsals were like that big, okay, and black, jet black. And I'm liking this, dude.
Okay,
because like when we're getting there, Kyle was like, hey, like, they've been really doing the thing since right before Christmas, but he's like, timing should be absolutely perfect. And dude, I doing some grunt calling, all that kind of stuff. And right at last light, when we got done hunting, or right when I was about to come out of the tree, I kept hearing, dude, second it got to like, I can't see my pin, but like you can kind of see around you a little bit. It's like you can just start hearing the deer coming through the freaking thicket. And like one came parallel behind me down the property line. One came through there, and then I heard another one further off. But I'm like, just kind of all popped out right at last light too. But we ended up hiking out, and I told Jeff, I'm like, dude, when we were walking in here, I'm like, I don't know how you could bow hunt this, because a lot of the stuff we were walking through was pretty open. But then we get in this tighter thicket. I'm like, this actually sets up pretty good for bow hunting, because the cool thing is when you climb up, I was probably 18 feet up in this oak tree. On the ground, you can't see 10 yards, maybe. And like you couldn't shoot that far with a bow unless you're like in one of these little thin bands, either on a slough or any of those thin bands of hardwoods. But when you climb up, you can see 150, 200 yards. And I told Jeff, I'm like, dude, this sets up so good for calling, because you can physically see the deer. If he's cruising across one of these sloughs, 120 yards from you, you could grunt, do some rattling or whatever, and he can't see to that tree. If he wants to come in, he's got to come all the way into that tree. And that was kind of my game plan after that, because I was like, oh, this sets up pretty good.
Yeah, I was calling quite a bit. I never called anything in. As usual. That first afternoon was pretty neat. I just hunted the edge of this like kind of willow swamp looking thing. Had some rubs coming out of it. Didn't have an encounter that night. Went in the next morning with you and Jeff, and I went basically on the edge of one of these thickets that you're talking about. and just worked the edge of it down a pretty good ways and ended up setting up in the dark. I walked up on a dead like fawn that was covered up like a bobcat had killed it.
Black Panther, man.
It's probably a Black Panther.
Black Panther covering them up.
So I walked up on a Black Panther kill.
Yep.
And I documented it. I videoed it with my phone and everything. Got up in the tree, and it was cold that morning. It was a beautiful morning. And I think you saw some does, but you didn't see the first doe until what, like 10, 15 or something?
Yeah. 10, 15 saw the first deer, which I was kind of surprised with because I was kind of set up where I saw the does the day before and just slipped in that slough. Me and Jeff kind of split ways, and I started finding rubs because one thing they were telling us about while we were there is like, dude, there's been like no buck sign. Like very minimal.
Again, something that we've heard from a lot of people in a lot of areas and something we've experienced ourselves this year.
In the Southeast. Very little rubs, almost zero scrapes. If they found a scrape, like just a tiny little scrape, that's all it was. And when me and Jeff split, we took a deer trail actually through the one of these little ridges. When I say ridge, it's like the only thing that doesn't have water on it. It's not wet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 6, 8, 10 inches difference of elevation. Like walking it, you can't tell you're going uphill.
Yeah.
You're really not, but it's just, it's the only spot that's kind of dry. That's where all the briars are at. And we took a deer trail across it. And man, there's some really good tracks going down this deer trail and then open up into the slough, and the trail kind of, dispersed. Well, I cut down the slough. I kind of, hung it right, and Jeff kind of kept going straight. And when I hung it right, there's like rub, another rub. I'm like, okay, we ain't seen any rubs. And they're talking about like, if you find a handful of rubs, like that's a pretty good spot. I'm like, okay, I feel pretty good. Found a land bridge, dry spot going across the slough where there was not water, and there's rubs going across it. I'm like, dude, I'm just sitting right here. Like I'm just gonna sit right here. I can see up to the head of the slough. I can see kind of into the briar thickets on each side. And but yeah, I didn't have the first deer come by. I just saw a bunch of does that morning. They didn't come by till like 10 o'clock until like noon, and a couple of them bedded down right there in front of me at like 60 yards. Because when Jeff came out, he actually cut through that same thicket, but he was like maybe 150 yards past me. And when he started coming through that sucker, them does knew it. And they got up and boogied out. They didn't blow or anything. They just got up and kind of trotted off, hung their head low. I'm like, oh, okay. But, dude, it was 32 degrees or 33 degrees that morning when we went out there. And that was the morning I think I was talking to you. I'm like, I don't know if I'm carrying my bibs. Because it wasn't supposed to be very windy, like at all, like just real light winds. And the wind was shifting all day long. It was coming from it's like a northeast or east wind. Then it was going to be like east, southeast. Then it was going to be a southeast wind. Then it was going to come like southwest at some point later in the morning. And I ended up just wearing the kiln bottoms, first like kiln base layer bottoms, and then put on the furnace bottoms base layers at the tree, the zip off bottoms, so you can you drop your pants without taking your boots off. You can zip those on and then buckle everything back up. And I wore that all morning, and I was comfy. I was like, dude, I don't need my bibs. It was great. I'm like, that was like the perfect way to kind of test that out. But I was surprised not seeing a buck come cruising through there. Because, I mean, like private lands right adjacent to it, I guarantee they have a corn feeder, and it looked like they had food plots on their property. That's where the deer are kind of coming back from. And I was just fully expecting to catch a buck coming out of like one of these thickets, crossing the kind of around the head of the slough, and then kind of keep on going. Never happened.
Yeah. That morning I ended up getting down at like 11 something, and I got down, and the area I was hunting, there was a thicket on that ridge, and then there was just 300 yards of the most open woods ever. We talked a little bit about it on Monday's episode, but I was kind of joking. I'm like, you could play a football game under there. You almost could, dude. Like you could. It was so open. And I get down, and when I get down and look around, there's a ground blind like 60 yards from where I climbed, and I couldn't see it all morning because there were some trees between me, and I was like, there's a freaking ground blind right there. And I go walking over to it, and like looking out ahead of me as I'm walking, this buck crosses that big open patch of hardwoods. And I walked over to where that buck was, and there was there was nothing. There was nothing. Like no deer trails, no deer tracks, no rubs, no scrapes. And he crossed and went into the swamp. And when I say swamp, I mean like a flooded swamp with all those big trees with the big buttresses on them or whatever you call it. Like the water is like almost knee deep through there. and it's not like there's any cover. I was thinking, again, I said it in Monday's episode, I was thinking it was going to be real marshy, maybe get in there and find some cattails, maybe some high spots, maybe some briars up in there. It's like, no, it's just water. He just disappeared off into the water. I'm like, these deer are
What'd you
different.
call him? He was like the creature of the Black Lagoon?
Creature of the Black Lagoon. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
It scared me when I was a little kid.
I don't like any movies like that.
It's like an old movie.
Yeah, I don't like any movies like that.
You never seen like a it's like from the 40s or something.
I'm good.
You ought to watch it. It's a masterpiece. That's a pretty good movie.
Mm.
Anyways, so yeah, he just disappeared off into that stuff. What I really want to talk about though is when we went back in that afternoon, we were kind of debating on what we should do, and we wanted to see multiple properties, and we thought about going to this other place, but ultimately we're like, let's give this area one last shot. You kept seeing does, and Jeff had that buck encounter, and the buck that I had seen that morning went up into the area that you guys were in. He went that general direction. Like, he had to have crossed that swamp and probably got up somewhere around that cover that you guys were hunting around. So we decided to come in from a different direction, and this was pretty interesting. So we didn't park at a normal access point, like where most people park, these little pull-off areas, little trailheads, whatever they're called. We didn't park at one of those. We parked just on the shoulder of the road and dropped off like a steep embankment to get down into the swamp. And how far did we get off the road before we started picking up heavy sign?
100 yards maybe.
Yeah, I mean, cars whizzing by. You could see the cars up there on the hill. And there's tracks, droppings, and rubs clustered up right there. And me and Jeff found that cluster of rubs. There's like 12 rubs all in one little area right there. And Jeff said that was the most buck sign he'd found all year in one spot. So I was like, okay, well, this is nice. This is good. Started pushing it a little bit further. Sign got heavier and heavier, and there's no real pinch points out here. That's another thing we talked about in Monday's episode, where there's no just hard funnels. It's not like bluff country or it's not like having a big saddle on a mountaintop or something like that. The deer really can walk anywhere in here. There's nothing that is going to force movement. There's only things that kind of encourage movement, I would say. And one of the things that I felt like encouraged movement was those edges of those briar patches. So we're walking this ridge. Again, this ridge is about 7 inches higher than everything else around it. You can barely even tell that it's higher than everything. You have to really look through the woods to tell it's higher. But it's about 7 inches higher. It's got green briars on it. It's got other shrubs and different things growing on it that make it thick. And there's a slough next to it that's holding water. And this briar thicket kind of pinches down close to that slough where they're only 40 yards apart. And right there in that little pinch point, again, I hesitate to even call it a pinch point because it's not like it forces deer movement, but I think that those habitat edges just kind of encourage deer movement to that spot because they want to follow those edges anyways. And we got right there, and there was all kinds of sign. There was multiple rubs. There was a bunch of tracks. There was
tons of fresh droppings.
Fresh droppings. I mean, it had everything going for it. You could tell that they were crossing that slough right there and coming into that thicket. And man, it was a really good looking spot. I was the only one that was wearing knee boots, so I was like, well, I'm going to cross the thicket. I'm going to cross the slough and go look for something else north of us. And one of you guys, y'all figure out who wants to hunt here because we were all three kind of walking together, fanned out. And then neither of y'all hunted it.
Well,
why?
I was going to. I should have told Jeff. Me and Jeff walked a couple 100 yards further, and I'm like, dude, I'm just going to go back there and sit that. Well, actually, I didn't tell him I was going to sit that little habitat pinch. I was going to go back around to there was a couple slough heads all came together in one spot where there's thick ridges on each side of this, 3 different thick ridges all came together in this one spot. I'm just going to go over there and walk back around this thicket in order to just try to get where it had a bunch of habitat edges and set up. And he's like, all right, well, I'm going to work further down, down this ridge. So we split. Well, I get back to that, which you call the habitat pinch, where that thicket, that not really sapling, briar thicket kind of came down towards the slough. And there was rubs I didn't notice the first time we walked through there. So one thing I'd mention to people, if you're going scouting or even hunting, as you're walking through the woods, if you're seeing sign or not seeing sign, every 50 to 100 yards, turn around and look behind you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, especially depending on the trees they're rubbing, you might not think there's a single rub you're walking by, but if you don't ever look behind you, there may be a rub on the backside of the tree, like 15, 20 yards off to your side that you never even notice, which can kind of, not only draw your attention, but go and kind of spot check right there and see if there's anything else there, tracks, droppings, all that kind of stuff. Well, when I was coming back through the opposite direction, I was like, man, there's more rubs and bigger rubs than I even thought there were when we walked through. I thought there was like one. There was like four right there. And then I started looking on the ground and started getting close to the water. And there's big old freaking droppings all right there and big tracks. And they're coming out of the freaking slough. There's a trail. I say trail. I don't even know if I want to call it trail. There was tracks coming up out of the water, coming onto the dry land, and there was tracks coming off the dry land going towards the water.
Just like the creature of the Black Lagoon.
Yeah. So I was like, man, I'm thinking about I might just sit right here. I was trying to find a tree. I was like, man, I could sit on the ground, or I could get in one of these trees, but I'm like, I probably need to get in a tree so I can see into the thicket. Well, as I'm doing that, Jeff calls me. He's like, hey, man, I don't know what to do. I'm already over here. I'm 600 yards from you now, and there ain't nothing over here. He's like, I'm thinking about bouncing. I'm like, dude, well, okay, you can come back here and sit in the pinch if you want. I'm here right now, and there's tons of sign, and I'll just keep working around. He said, all right, cool. So he was going to come back to the pinch. Well, I kind of eased back around, and by that time, it was like maybe an hour and a half before dark or something like that. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to walk because there's another like 400 yards down, and I'm like, I've got to walk right between all this bedding cover. And I'm like, I got a feeling I'm going to blow something out, like being this close to like when deer are probably already on their feet. So as I'm coming around the point, I'm like, I'm just going to sit up right here. There's another habitat edge, two different ridges kind of parallel to kind of stop the head of this slough. And there was droppings and tracks all right there and big trail. I'm like, I'm just going to sit right here, climb up where I can see onto one of these ridges. I can see towards the other ridge and set up. And that's what I did. Well, I could hear Jeff walking. At that point, he wasn't being quiet. He was just trying to just get in position. And he walks. I'm like, where's he going? Because it seemed like he walked past the pinch. I could hear him. I'm like, I think he's coming past the pinch. I'm looking for him. And all of a sudden, it stops. And I hear him walk back the other way. I'm like, I don't know where he's going. So, anyways, I climbed up a tree, and he ended up texting me. I was like, hey, where'd you end up getting? He's like, I went all the way back down, to the far side of the ridge. I'm just going to set up somewhere down here. Well, none of us saw a deer that night. You had one kind of slipped by you. Mm-hmm. You forgot your headlamp.
Yep.
So you were sitting on the ground.
Yep.
Terrified. I mean, I thought you knew your rappelling gear good enough. I don't know how important that is. I mean, you got a phone you got a flashlight on your phone, dude. You just did I have my Mad Rock set up correctly? Double check it.
Not doing it.
No,
not risking it.
Anyway, I ended up not seeing anything. I heard a deer or two come out of that one of the thick ridge off my left side. Right in the legal light when I couldn't see my pins, but you can kind of see shapes and everything around you. I could hear deer start trickling out, and they're come down the slough, and they're walking up the slough towards me. And I'm like, I'm just gonna sit here and wait and just see what happens. Because I'm like, at some point they're probably gonna smell me, and if I heard something walking, I'm like, dang, that's something loud.
That must be the buck.
I was like, man, that sucker's real loud. Down here, it's just. I'm like, that's got to be Andrew. He's terrified of the dark. Probably they don't have a headlamp.
No, I'm not terrified of the dark. I didn't want to walk through one of those briar patches without a headlamp.
Man, you had your track on?
Yeah.
You ain't got to walk through no briar thicket. We walked around.
Well, my phone was about to die.
Well, navigation skills, man. It's part of woodsmanship. But anyways, I see this headlamp coming, and all of a sudden the deer, those deer that are out in front of me, they stop. And then when you got to maybe 100 yards from me, they just boogied. They were gone. They were nope. They didn't blow or anything, but it just went running down the slough. And I was like, okay, well I can get out of the tree now. So I came out of the tree, and we waited for Jeff. And yeah, dude, it was interesting. There's that pocket of sun, but the further back you went on the property, it's there was nothing.
Yeah,
and that's what I think we kind of realized. And one thing that tell you about
past a bunch of deer.
Did you talk to Jeff about the deer he jumped the next day?
Yeah, biggin'.
Did he tell you where?
Oh, no. Where did he jump it?
He said you stopped about 40 yards too short.
I stopped?
Mm-hmm. He was about 40 to 60 yards from the general area you were at, and that's where that buck was. The other buck was locked down with the doe the next day.
I probably did walk where he's talking about. I walked further than y'all think I did. Mm. So, but I could see how that buck would be in there though, because once you got towards that pinch, that's where it got really, really thick. Was once you started getting past that. You're talking about that pinch point.
No. I'm talking about when you cross the slough. On the other side of the slough is where he jumped. Jeff crossed the slough like you did.
Yeah.
But he went a little bit further down and crossed the slough. And when he came up, there's another little slough right there. And the big buck was locked down with the doe right there.
Like went to the next slough.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I'd crossed the slough and then turned and paralleled it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And he was, because he went in the next day and he's like big, giant, wide 8-point. Locked down with the doe right there. They were bedded down the other side of the slough.
Yeah, I probably.
In the wide open, he said, dude, there ain't no cover around him.
Well, I probably actually did hunt next to that then, because I kind of hunted on the edge of that, where that cover wrapped around, and then out in front of me, I was watching like just big open expanse of timber. But I was sitting on the very edge of that thicket, where if one was running the edge of the thicket, it was going to come like 18 yards in front of me. Yes, that area looked good in there, but there wasn't the sign on where you was a lot heavier than where I was. But him seeing that buck in there just confirms. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
One thing we realized with this hunt, and Kyler said too, he's like, I think they're locked down.
Yeah.
He's like, nobody's really seen them unless you if you see one, it's stuck with a doe. Like there's no, like nobody's seeing big bucks cruising. Like it's kind of dead. Like nobody's really seen anything. But when they do see something, bucks locked down with the doe, you jump them. Or maybe you see them from observation. No one saw them from observation. Pretty much everybody jumped them except for the first one Jeff had an opportunity at. And, they're kind of gone. And he's like, I just think we're locked down. And he's like, what's unfortunate is by the time y'all probably leave is when it's going to start getting good again.
Yeah. Well, we're going to see Kyler here again like this week. So I'm looking forward to asking him, be like, did anybody else in camp do any good after we left? I am excited to go back next year. And, on this trip, we recorded 2 different podcasts and shot an entire YouTube video about hunting arrowheads, which I started editing today. Mm-hmm. Bravo to the cameraman Jacob on that one. He did a great job, for real. You did a great job filming that. So excited. We went out hunting like artifacts, and we found a whole bunch of, freaking awesome arrowheads that I've dreamt about.
Points or arrowheads? Cause
whatever. Everyone calls them arrowheads. Points, arrowheads, atlatl points, Indian artifacts, whatever. We went out and found some that I have dreamt of finding for years. You just don't find them like that in Alabama, dude. And we went out. We were out there for what? Hour 15.
Yeah.
And found literally my pockets were completely full of chips and points and broken points and all kinds of stuff. So
petrified wood.
Found an old axe head from
old
axe, like from when they were freaking cutting down all the timber in the Delta, probably.
Yeah.
Dude, that was honestly the highlight of my trip, to be honest. The hunting was a lot of fun in the camp, but dude, that was, and Kyler knows so much about it too. He did a real good job of kind of narrating and teaching about the point. So we're doing a real fun video on that I'm working on right now. But yeah, so we filmed that and 2 podcasts. So we actually didn't hunt a ton on this trip compared to the amount of time that we were over there. I'm looking forward to going back next year and maybe just doing 1 podcast on the last day, kind of like we talked about on the way home, and really kind of sinking our teeth into it and actually really hunting out there. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But it's really cool. It's a really unique place, and Kyler's done a really great job with it because it is a great mix of you can go there and just have fun with all your buddies, and it's a fun hangout. And you could go there and not see a deer the whole time, and you're still going to have fun just because of that camp atmosphere. It is an absolute blast. But when the weather's good and the rut's on, you're hunting awesome land. You truly have a chance at a really, really big deer.
Hey, our buddy Zach White.
From
Kansas. Now he lives in Iowa.
He was on the podcast earlier this year.
Yeah, he hunted with us.
He was down there for a day and a half. He killed a hammer.
I didn't even know he was in Mississippi at the same time we were. And dude, he killed a hammer on pole.
You know where he was hunting, right? Or around where he was. I don't know exactly where it was, but he was very close to Kyler's place. So he was right around there. I was like, dang, man, because that was right when we were struggling too. And he sent the picture. I'm like, crap, Zach killed one. Holy smokes. And yeah, he killed the first picture he sent of it, I was like, oh man, that's a good deer. The one he sent today, where it's the actual Griffith grin, I was like, dang, oh my gosh, dude. Killed a really, really nice buck. But that's the Delta for you, dude. Buck quality, super, super high.
Killed him in the palmettos, and we hunted palmettos one day.
Yeah, the palmettos were really fun, really cool. But yeah, I'm excited to get back down there. I'm excited about specifically areas like what that finding that little pinch point, that little habitat pinch where all that sign was, gave me a lot of confidence because I felt like we were able to go in there with on like a short amount of time, and obviously we got a good lead on a spot because Kyler and Jeff already hunted the area. But being able to walk in there, you had some encounters with some does, and then swing around and use the unusual access and find that sign like we did right next to the road was just a confidence booster because it's something that a lot of our guests talk about on the podcast from time to time, and to go out there and just have it work like that was like, oh, this is nice. It worked like it's supposed to. We used the unusual access. We came in a different direction. We looked at habitat diversity and boom, found a high concentration of deer sign. And just, it was a short trip, a lot of work to do. So we didn't put a ton of time into actually hunting it. But again, the sign, I think, spoke for itself. And I feel like I could go back out there and find more things like that.
Bow hunting the rifle woods.
Bow hunting the rifle woods.
As Kyler would say.
That's right. I had a great time, though.
No, it was super fun. Fun hanging out with all the guys in camp. We had, I think, 10 of us.
Yeah.
Counting you
and
and me.
That last night, we had 10 people in camp.
It was a madhouse.
Yeah. Cooking a bunch of good food, smoking cigars, having a good time.
Yeah.
Wood burning stove, cold night.
Yeah, the wood burning stove was the ticket. Again, Kyle gave me a lot of ideas for deer camp. Big porch that's half enclosed. You got a wood burning fireplace on, or wood burning stove on. It's like, dude, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it is such a sweet setup. And again, that's something I told him. Like, dude, we never grew up with like a quote unquote deer camp. Home with my uncles, it's like, just go down to the family farm, or you do like day trips down to one of the releases or something like that. So that was super fun, and just hanging out with a great group of guys. And also one thing that's really cool about Kyler's camp, and we talked about this a little bit in one of the episodes, is he's got aerial maps of like all the different public around there.
Yeah.
That's in the camp. And of course we didn't show any photos of them because they're all named and all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting because he's got certain spots on that they kind of like circle. They're like, hey, I've hunted here, or like, had this like really good encounters in this spot. And it was kind of cool getting everybody's take in the evening, like where everybody was going to hunt the next day.
Oh yeah.
And kind of standing around the maps or just talking about it, looking on their maps on their phone and kind of figuring out specifically, what's the game plan for in the morning. So it's like that kind of camaraderie of the actual hunt itself more so than even just like hanging out at camp was really cool.
Yeah, that was a great time. And I learned a lot. I really do feel like I learned a lot. It was a good opportunity for us to like go and get schooled by a bunch of guys who actually hunt that flat land kind of stuff all the time.
That is very challenging. Because again, like we talked about in Monday's episode, not a lot of super defined pinch points like we find more like hill country or like steeper terrain. And also just the abundance of cover in a lot of that stuff. Where like some of the cover doesn't lend itself as a place that you can find sign very easily. Again, like the palmettos. Like you're not going to see a rub from 40 yards away because the palmettos are too tall. I mean, palmettos like chest high walking through it.
Oh yeah. My thoughts on the palmettos are like, I don't know if, like for instance, when we go back next year, I don't know if I would really focus on the palmettos. I mean, unless we're hunting with other guys who are hunting them, like hunting with Kyler or something. If I'm just going and trying to find my own spots, I don't know if I'm focusing on palmettos because kind of like Kyler said on Monday, I don't live there. I'm not like devoting a lot of time to it. So do I want to spend my 4 or 5 days that I have to hunt like trying to do observation sits in that, or would I rather go and hunt those like briar ridges? I would feel a lot more confident in the briar ridges, I think. Just because I feel like it takes so much time in those palmettos because you can't just – with those briar patches, you can find one, hit the edge of it, and just run that edge until you find something or don't find anything and then go to the next one. With that palmetto thicket, I mean, you can't even – I mean, you have to walk right on top of something to even see what you're on top of.
Oh, well, one thing we want to clarify is the whole crossbow thing.
Yeah. Okay, I'll let you take it.
So Kyler, at his camp, he's like his sign made whatever as like no crossbows allowed. That's like their camp rule. Okay. I think some listeners, viewers thought that we're anti-crossbow. I don't care. I'd kind of joke to Mike, couldn't bring my Raven. I don't have a Raven crossbow.
We were planning on, if we had filmed it, we were planning on you bringing your uncle's
Raven
crossbow and just filming Kyler's reaction.
Yeah, absolutely. He's like, you can bring it, but you're not sleeping in the camp. You're sleeping on the porch.
Oh man, that would have been hilarious.
But anyway, so we were joking about that. But yeah, me and Andrew are not anti-crossbow guys. Fun little toys. So, but that was funny because we had a lot of comments about that.
Really?
Yeah,
I haven't even looked yet
on YouTube.
So got everyone all riled up.
Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, they'll what do they call them? Cross guns.
Yeah, good old cross gun. Well, okay, so what's your final thoughts? You know, kind of like what I was just talking about, palmettos versus the other stuff that we hunted. You know, thinking about next year, maybe what would your approach be? Kind of newbie.
God, I hope they have more acorns. That'd be nice, just to find better food sources, like better food sources on public kind of later in the season, and then also like, dude, the lack of sign was not what I was expecting.
Oh, me neither.
Like, was not what I was expecting. So, you know, that was something that just kind of threw me off. I mean, definitely, you know, those kind of hardwood sloughs, like the Briar Ridges and stuff. Definitely, I felt more confident in that kind of habitat for like seeing deer, get an opportunity at deer, calling bucks in. The palmettos were super cool. Felt like I was in Jurassic Park.
Yep.
But like you said, it's a needle in a haystack, and the haystack's tens of thousands of acres. So you're like, okay, where do I need to sit in that mass of just stuff that it doesn't all look the same, but if you take a quick glance at it, you're like, I don't know what I'm looking at.
You're like, holy crap.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I'll say, dude, clutch when we were in Mississippi. The Onyx has the leaf off imagery from Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
And that was phenomenal.
Yes.
In the Delta. I mean, superb. So
yeah, it was
like,
really, really good imagery.
You could see stuff that, like, you know, if it was just like green imagery, kind of like summertime imagery, it'd be extremely challenging to know what you're looking at. But like with that leaf off imagery over there, it was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Made it so much easier, not only to navigate, but also to see like some of these really small sloughs like that you were walking through or like walking around that, you know, they may only be 40 to 60, 80 yards wide. And they'd show up really well with leaf off imagery. So that was super, super nice. But other than that, I mean, yeah, it was just a fun trip. I think going into the hunt next time is like, kind of like you said, a little more focused on the actual hunt, not so much on just doing a bunch of podcasts and stuff like that. And also trying to like buckle down on some areas and maybe some areas that, you know, we kind of hunted this time. And then also, I wouldn't be opposed to trying to go and like, not necessarily postseason scout, but do like a quick runabout in like maybe December or something next year.
Yeah.
Just to kind of see like how everything's looking, you know, sign wise, and also, you know, get updates from the guys whether or not the acorn production was any better. Mm-hmm. But it was fun. I mean, you know, if anybody's, well, I'm not gonna say anybody wants to go have a late season rut hunt, but it's a cool spot. Not gonna lie, a lot of public land.
Yeah, definitely. I got another river bottom hunt coming up here in about 2 weeks. So that's going to be super fun. Going to be hunting with our buddy Wes, who y'all hear about on the podcast all the time. I'm sure we're going to rope him in for a podcast episode while we're up there.
Yeah, we do have to do one while we're down there just to highlight that aspect of the pod, or that aspect of like hunt camp, because it's fun hanging out with Wes.
Never a dull moment.
Yeah, and we'll have I think Greg Maher will be there. I think Michael Pike might be there, and a couple other guys. So it's gonna be a fun time. But
something ought to die on that trip, by God.
Yeah, I told Wes, I was like the dates of when I was thinking we were gonna go down. He's like, dude, if y'all come down and we hunt for those days. He's like
4 days.
He's like, dude. He told me, he's like, Jake, you ought to tag out. Andrew ought to kill a couple. And I'm like, we're setting the standards kind of high, Wes. Like, look.
Man, you set me up for failure with the standards like that.
I know. I'll say that, and Andrew might go down there and not say anything.
I don't know. That would not surprise me at this point in my deer season. But anyways, that's all I got.
Yeah. Well, appreciate everybody watching the podcast. Thank y'all for listening. Appreciate also, again, all the listener Q&As coming in, and still people that are submitting listener success stories. Had a few more come in over the last week or so. Again, if you use anything you learned from the podcast, from any past podcast guests, anything that we've mentioned, you got out there and had success killing you a nice deer, write in your listener Q&A or write in your listener success story. Links down in the show notes, or go over to the website to be able to enter that, submit a photo, and we'll share those throughout the off season, kind of spring, summertime. And then also appreciate everybody that's already submitted and entered to win the First Light giveaway with the furnace hoodies and the core kit. Again, still have plenty of time to do that. Just go over to the website, sign up for our email list. Again, just the newsletter, Woodsman Wire, and you'll be entered to win. And we'll make that announcement here in just a couple weeks. So thank y'all for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you back here in the next episode from the Southern Outdoorsmen Podcast. And remember, guys, y'all stay Southern.